Welcome to the program. I'm here with the start of the fifth season here. We're going to get going soon and try to bring a lot of guests. Welcome back to the show. And today I have Paul Gessing joining me.
Hi, how are you?
How you doing? Rio Grande Foundation, right? I always call it the Rio Grande Foundation. I think you pronounce it a little bit different there.
Well, Rio Grande is how most Anglos would pronounce it. Rio Grande is how you pronounce it if you've had Spanish 101, and then some people trill their R's and speak really proper Spanish, which I can't do. So I go for the middle ground on this one.
I think I asked you that last time you came in. How do you pronounce this name? Rio Grande? Or, welcome to the show. I'm glad you came back. Thank you for coming back on a short notice there. I think I always get you on a short notice. Lots going on in the legislature.
Absolutely.
I know we have a lot to work with there. A few things, I know we can't talk about everything, we'll talk about a few things.
Sure.
So I'll let you take it from what you want to talk about, and maybe I'll jump in and see if there's something else I can squeeze in there.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, the top issue on most people's discussion of the legislative session is right to work, and that's something that my organization, the Rio Grande Foundation, very proudly has researched and put forth as a policy measure that needs to be looked at and implemented in Santa Fe in the legislature to make New Mexico the 25th state that's right to work in the United States. And right to work simply means that you as an individual can choose or not choose to join a labor union. You don't have to pay union dues or be affiliated with any organization like a labor union that you don't want to.
It does not mean elimination of unions.
That's
the first thing, when you hear about right to work, the first thing people say, oh, they're trying to eliminate union because they're lobbying with Congress and lobbying with, it's like the committee, the Right to Work Committee lobbies on behalf of eliminating unions. So the perception is that the second you mention right to work, you're trying to get rid of unions. And that's if you look at all the states that are surrounding us, Texas, right to work, a lot of jobs there, Arizona, Nevada. I think Colorado isn't, right?
Colorado is the only non-right to work state surrounding us. Yeah.
What are the misconceptions there with the right to work? I know we're not trying to eliminate unions. That's the first thing you said. What happens when a state becomes right to work? Or what's the first thing that happens?
Well, generally, there is an increase in job opportunities and those base jobs, economic base. A lot of manufacturing companies in particular look at right to work very closely in their phase of when they're just sitting down to see which states they want to be in. They'll typically look at a region and then various other issues that may or may not be present in that state, transportation, population, et cetera. And sometimes those are narrowed down so closely that it's only 2 or 3 different states. And typically, the more business-friendly state, and right to work is a big part of that, is the one that gets the jobs. And New Mexico, we know historically, it's been a very poor state. It's also a state with an underdeveloped private sector. We've historically been very reliant on funding from Washington, D.C., the labs, military installations, and then the oil and gas industries. And that's changing.
Now, I will move on to another subject because we've got so much to cover there. One more thing on the right to work. What happens when, say, for instance, we have right to work? Naturally, the unions are going to coexist with that. Now, what happens to the individuals that are applying for jobs? Say, this is the questions that I get. What happens to them when they're accepting a job where there's already union influence there? How does that work for individuals that are coming in under the new law?
Well, it's just like being hired for any other job. You just don't have to join a labor union.
So they couldn't be forced to join, right?
Right.
Okay.
I'll give you a personal example. When I was a young person in Ohio, I went down to a local supermarket and I was going to be required to join the labor union. I was only going to earn minimum wage at this particular job, and yet I was going to have dues automatically taken out of my pay. So I was ultimately going to be earning less than minimum wage for this job. And that made me decide, look, I'm going to go to a non-union shop where at least I can hold on to the entire minimum wage I'm making in this paycheck and not have to pay a union for obviously providing me zero benefit because I'm making only the minimum wage. So it's actually much more typical for most people not to have to deal with the unions and being mandated to join those unions. They can choose, hey, I want to join the union. It's just like potentially donating to the United Way or some other nonprofit organization. You can choose to have part of your payroll put aside for United Way or some charity of your choice, and you can do the same for a right to work in a union.
Michigan, Indiana, I think these are the two that surprised me. I think Michigan surprised me when they passed that law there. I know there's a lot of lawsuits going on from the union bosses and stuff trying to, fight the law there. 24 states, am I right? 25?
24 states are right to work and 26 are not right to work.
26 are not. And I know New Mexico is in, Colorado is in, but Texas, Arizona, Nevada, some of these are all. Is California? Is that?
No.
It's not, right? I didn't think so. I know they're pretty heavy in union there. It's a tough, it's a very hard thing to listen to when you listen to all the sides of it. There's a heated argument, both sides. They all get very passionate because the unions get involved and then they coach them that, look, no, they're trying to eliminate your right to work in a certain place and your right to have negotiations on your behalf. So how do you, and we'll take it to something else after that, what do you say to those that fear that if you eliminate the unions, how do we defend ourselves at that point? What do we do? If there's an issue there, how do we defend
Well, we're not eliminating unions, but I would also say that we have the data on private sector union membership, and actually 20 of the 24 right-to-work states have higher private sector union density than New Mexico. New Mexico doesn't really have a large number of unions because we don't have much of a private sector. It's not typical for McDonald's and Wendy's and these kinds of places to be unionized. We need to get more high-paying jobs here in New Mexico, and right-to-work can be an attraction for that, and that's really the number one thing.
I'm going to bring you back to talk about this thing. We'll talk a little bit more in length because this is such a vast subject there, and people always throw all kinds of questions at you. Next thing on the agenda, on the legislature, is there something that you want to
Well, the education system is certainly up for discussion, and the governor in her State of the State address talked fairly significantly about education reform, including third grade social promotion.
And she's suggesting another 2.3% more, I think, for additional within the budget, right? Okay. Let me take a break. We'll come back and we'll talk about education. We'll start with the education again.
Great.
We'll take a short break. We'll be right back.